I think everything's set. Thank you for your patience, everyone. And welcome to today's Campfire Session on AI for Administration. Yeah, happy to see many new faces here, many new faces here. Essentially today, I want to talk about how Flint can be used beyond just within the classroom and how it can help people in the school and especially administrators who I know you guys are like juggling a bunch of different things. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and dive into that. First, as always, I cover some icebreaking news, which I think is like AI news that is kind of worth discussing, kind of relevant to this topic. And then for today's session, I have planned going through some Flint chats, making sure that everyone's like familiar with the features and some of the applications for chats, especially when it comes to administrator tasks. And then we'll talk about creating activities in Flint for both yourself and for faculty, and how those sorts of activities can help like streamline different processes or give you access to new data. And then finally, I've tried to leave plenty of time for everyone to have time to share their thoughts, give some feedback. There's a couple of people that I reached out to specifically to share what they've been doing with Flint, but of course, anyone else on the call here is welcome to share whatever insights you have. Yeah, and as always, the recording will be available later. If you're already on this call, you'll get this recording in your email since you signed up for the session. And yeah, questions are welcome at any time. Feel free to raise your hand, interrupt me, or throw it in the chat. I'll try and like manage all of those channels as we. Yeah, so for today's icebreaking news, the Center for Democracy and Technology came out with this new, I guess, survey results where they kind of surveyed a bunch of different schools on how AI is being used and what concerns they have and risks they foresee. There's a lot of there's like a lot of data in this. So when you guys get the slides at the end of the session, highly recommend like skimming through it. But I think one of the interesting features or aspects that they looked at was how much teachers and students are using AI, and then also how they feel like that's affecting their interactions. So here from like this first chart, you can see that like, there's like mixed use. Some teachers are just using it for like a few different methods. Some are like, or almost half are using it for 3 to 6 different ways. And then a lot of, or not a lot, like a third of them are using it for many different kinds of applications, like 7 to 10 different ways. And then students are kind of like split up pretty evenly into thirds there. But not many of them are like using them in as many applications as teachers. So I thought this was interesting, kind of as we're talking about like the variety of applications that AI can have in a school. I think even at like the student and teacher level, there's like a lot of exploration that can still be done about how many different applications AI can have in their lives. And I think the appropriate conversations to have are like when different applications would be most helpful to them and most appropriate for them. And I think one of the specific charts that a couple of different news organizations actually have been covering recently is that students whose school use AI for many reasons, so I think it was like the 7 to 10 range, are more likely to agree that AI creates distance from their teachers. So this is like kind of, when I saw this at least, and I think when a lot of people saw this, they were pretty concerned because, the whole point of education is to create that human connection, really allow teachers and students to help each other out and, foster the students' learning. So I think, yeah, it's interesting to see that like, some schools are using AI for a lot of different purposes, but students are feeling more distant. So I think it still begs the conversation of how are we implementing AI in a very meaningful way that more so enables more of that interaction rather than like replacing that interaction. So I think it's still something that people are grappling with, and students are clearly feeling it as well. So I just thought that was something to like keep in mind as we talk about like applications and how to implement AI into the classroom. Yeah. Anyone have any like thoughts to share on that or anything to add there?
I do. I guess just maybe just keeping the teacher in the loop, that you can use AI, but you got to bring the teacher back, and we're still the mentor, and we're the person there to guide the kids, and so just don't forget that last step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fully agreed. I think also like um I think some of the applications of AI is very substitution centered right now, where the students are like doing this instead of like going to ask the teacher a question or instead of interacting with their peers or whatever it might be. And I think like in some cases that can be helpful if that allows them to have deeper conversations later on. Like I think a lot of the applications of Flint have been like, oh, use this activity to get familiar with the topic so that we can then like have a more rich debate in class or like a more rich conversation about like the feedback that you're getting. I think like that's like our goal with like how to create like interactions between like teachers and students or students and students that makes them feel more close. But I do think like if you're missing that like second step, then it can definitely feel like you're just like replacing a lot of the interaction. Yeah. Um, did other people have thoughts? I think I saw a couple of unmutes there. Okay. Maybe I was mistaken. All good. But yeah, I think it's like an interesting thing to talk to your teachers and students about. Because it's easy to just like replace what you've been doing if it's like making it faster and like in the name of efficiency and everything. But yeah, I think it's really easy to kind of lose sight of this goal of allowing for better interactions and better learning experiences for the students. So yeah, some really interesting data in that study again. So highly recommend looking through it after this. But yeah, to make sure that everyone's like familiar with Flint also, I wanted to kind of cover both chats and activities before we get to the share out. I think like for this topic personally, like I don't have like I'm not running a school, so I like don't have that many like specific examples that I can share. So I'll try and leave like a lot of time for the share out, but I just wanted to like make sure everyone in the session is equipped with the knowledge about Flint so that we can like have those conversations later on. But yeah, key features to note within apps and Flint include memory. So this is something kind of new if you haven't like played around with Flint that much recently. And also that we kind of launched quietly, so it wasn't like a huge thing that you might have seen in the product. But if you ask Flint to remember something about you, it will actually add that to your profile. So if you come back to a chat later, like if you tell it like, hey, I'm a head of school, or hey, I teach second grade, or whatever it may be, Flint can remember that and like apply that to future conversations with you. Um, and then you can also ask it to remember things about your preferences as well. I'll share an example of like many of these in a bit. Yeah, but also wanted to remind everyone that like Flint is knowledgeable about settings for activities. So within the chat, you can always ask it to design activities from like other brainstorming conversations that you've had with it, or even if it's just like you want to see both like what Flint activities could look like and what non-Flint activities could look like. You could like brainstorm all of that within a chat. And then content upload, but of course like be mindful of the restrictions that we have right now, which include there's like a lot of different inputs that you can add to Flint for content, but there is like the size limit of about like 100 pages double spaced, or like yeah, it's like 100 pages double spaced. Flint will let you know if you hit that limit, but you can upload like 16 files of this size. So it is something that our team wants to expand, but if it's like an issue that you're coming up with right now, you can sometimes like break up your file into multiple files, and then that can work with the upload side of things. Yeah, image processing and generation also supported in Flint. We actually recently updated the models for this as well. So Flint can like look more closely at images and also generate like higher quality images. Yeah, and it can also search the web, it can translate things. Those are like some of the things that I'd like to highlight to people who haven't like fully explored Flint yet. And an example of a chat here. I'm losing my tabs. Okay. An example of a chat here. So I started off with like implementing the memory piece. So I said like, remember, I'm the head of a lower school in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I also said, I like your responses concise. And it immediately was pretty concise, which is good. And then so I said like, I want to set up a science fair for students. Can you do some research here on like modern science fair ideas? So then it was able to search the web and look for some like news articles or different like websites where it has like new ideas about science fairs. So that was cool. It like was able to start me off with that research journey. And then yeah, to like demonstrate like the image recognition part, I said, can you make a poster for the event? Of course, I had to use Buzz from my alma mater, Georgia Tech. And I said, like, here's our mascot. And then can you generate the poster for it? And it was able to do that and ask for like any edits that I want to it. And of course, like for each of these prompts, like I do anticipate like a normal person would go more deeply and give it a bunch of feedback, but I was trying to just like show a bunch of examples of what is possible. Yeah, so it's always asking for like adjustments, but I'm kind of ignoring it. Yeah, and then like I think finally, I asked it to write an email to parents asking if they would be interested in judging or giving feedback to the students' projects. So it can create like documents for you that you can then edit and like ask for more edits for too. And then I also said, can you write a version in Spanish? It's able to do that as well. Oh yeah, and then I like I asked for a rubric also based on like school's pillars. Of course, I think like at that point it would be good to like add a website or like a document on what it is that you would want to highlight in the rubric. Yeah, and then finally, like all of this brainstorming culminated into like, okay, how can I make a Flint activity for this? So then I was actually thinking it would be cool to like make an activity for the parents who would provide feedback for this event. And then I wanted it to be like an activity that kind of walks them through the rubric and the expectations and everything. So it was actually able to generate all of that for me. Yeah, and then from here I could just like copy this, put it into an activity as I like start the activity creation process. And then it's already like incorporated a lot of that context for me. So I don't have to like go back and like give it the context all over again. So that's kind of like a way to seamlessly go from your brainstorming chats into activities. And I think like this is also a common question that I get asked by admins, but like how do we get people outside of our like teachers and students to use Flint if we want to? And the current policy of our team at least is like we want to like enable all of the use cases that you guys are dreaming up. So if you want to create a like separate parent workspace, just let us know and we can like help you with like enabling that. I know like some people have just like created a free workspace and then they're like, oh, we have the limit. But we can actually just remove that limit for you all if you're already a paying customer, if we like don't want to restrict you all in any way there. So you could create a separate workspace for your parents so that all of that is kept separate from like the student and teacher activity. But yeah, I know I just threw a lot of information at you also. Are there any questions about chats or usage of chats or any like comments that you all want to share?
I really
Can you just
appreciated you extrapolating it out from different pieces within the science fair to then using images to also develop the poster. I hadn't thought about it from that angle. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think it's like pretty good at basing it off of an image, but of course, like, this design of Buzz and like the um yellow jacket that I created is like kind of different. So might be something to like play around with or tweak. But at least it can like even like get you like in the brainstorming direction for something. So yeah, glad that's helpful. Yeah, and Tiffany, did you have a question?
Can you just clarify? We were saying you were mentioning just a second ago about separate activities, spaces for parents versus teachers and students. Can you just explain? Because I think that's something that I'm interested in, but can you just clarify why that's helpful?
Yeah. So I think typically like schools have wanted to keep like all of their like actual curriculum and like teacher student interaction in one place, which makes sense. But then sometimes there's like events or like different situations where you might want to show Flint to parents, and so like we don't restrict the like number of workspaces that schools have, but we do like recommend like for your school you should probably just have one so that you as the administrator just have to manage one area. But if you want to keep the data, like all of the activities, chats, sessions from parents separate from students, then you can create a secondary workspace. And so far, our team has not restricted like that ability for schools. So yeah, if you do that and you need like any assistance there, like making it like a trial workspace so that like the little box in the corner saying that you're running out of seats doesn't show up, then just reach out to our team and we can make that happen for you. Yeah. Cool. Steven's asking, is it possible to add brand colors and images to my profile? Ooh. I think images, not so much, but I think you can do colors. Even if you just like put in like a description of what the color is, or if you have like the hex code, Flint can like create stuff based off of that code. So you could say something like, remember that my school's brand colors are code 1, code 2. When you generate images or graphics for my school, make sure you use these colors. Just so it knows like both what it is and where to apply it.
I wonder if it might be possible to upload, like if I had a style sheet that had all of our numbers, and then just, even if I did it on the fly, and so every time I did like a visual activity, I uploaded that style sheet so that it had our brand colors and our mascot and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think like, yeah, I think it would help. I think it depends also like how extensive your style sheet is. If it's just one page, I think Flint can like process the information pretty well. But I think because branding is like so specific, if it's like a really extensive style sheet, then the details about like the mascot or like the details about like applications might get lost a bit. So if you have like a really condensed one, I think that would work really well. Yeah, let me know if you try it out. Interesting. I never thought of that.
Thank you. And by the way, that's just a total ripoff from Canva, just so you know.
Makes sense. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. With that, let me dive into the activity side of things. So, okay, wait, I'll come back to that. For the people who maybe are new to Flint, I know through the registration, some people said that they had like not yet explored. That's why I'm explaining so much. But chats are kind of like if you're interacting with ChatGPT, but in a safe and enclosed space with more tools. So chats are like for yourself as you're brainstorming with AI, as you're chatting with AI, as you're getting feedback for yourself. So those chats are usually not shared, or you're not like interacting with other people through it. Whereas activities are more so you're designing your own custom chatbots that you can share with other people, or even that you can use for yourself, but if you want to like recurringly come back to like the same sort of assistant in a way. So some examples could be that I've heard of, at least for the more administrative side of things, is creating chatbots to answer parents' questions. So sometimes I've seen schools like upload the handbook or upload like the AI policy or whatever it might be, and then make that available to parents so that they can like go ask your questions anytime, and it's kind of like available 24/7, but it's also trained on content that the school themselves have developed. Usually this is in the secondary workspace, as we've mentioned before. But we've also seen activities in Flint created for like hackathons or conferences or other events that schools are hosting, which again, this could be in your school's workspace, or you could create an additional free for that. And then also, I think some of the more popular ones are like teacher training, either on Flint or AI or different policies or how to meaningfully integrate it. I have some like examples from the public library that I've pulled that I'll show in a sec. And then also, of course, like comment email writing based on like schools' policies. So sometimes, you know, of course, teachers can create like an email writing tool for themselves. Maybe it like really is like helping them with their workflow and stuff. But sometimes also I've seen administrators create the activities for the teachers so that they can like embed the kind of philosophy of like how they want AI to be used at the school into that activity, so that they know like that the teachers are like inputting what they should be inputting, and then the AI is like outputting what they want the output to look like, if that makes sense. Yeah, so what this has kind of looked like, bunch of different examples here, but for example, with this activity from Bill, like he created an activity to help create an effective classroom presentation. So let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah, teachers worked with Flint to develop the step-by-step process of their presentations, and it's really helping teachers to define their goals, outline, develop content, whatever process, part of the process that they might be at. And then, okay, I don't know if the Zoom is working very well. This one is like more specific for like math word problems. So Ty is like one of the innovation leads, I believe, at her school. And so she was creating a tool to help teachers to create more interest-driven math word problems. So this was like a very like specific application for specific teachers. Yeah, and then this one's a bit like broader for like any of the teachers at the school, but like helping them to craft comments for their students for the end of the semester. And, you know, it's like aligning with the school's vision statement. So I think that's why like this administrator created it, so that the teachers can like make sure that as a whole, they're like all creating comments that align with like the same values and the same things that the school wants students to be looking at and aware of, so that there's sort of consistency there across the board. And then I won't dive into each of these specifically anymore, but oh yeah, so then there's also like this research writing revision one, where like the teacher is like kind of demonstrating how Flint works. The teacher can demonstrate how Flint works. Sorry, I'm explaining that really weirdly. The activity is demonstrating for the teachers how Flint would give feedback. So I think this was like a informative activity where, you know, if teachers like don't really know Flint yet, but they want to understand like how it's going to give students feedback, this activity was kind of walking through what that process looks like. Yeah, and then we have two, one created by like someone not on our team, and then one created by someone on our team, of like using Flint for professional development. So like it kind of walks the teachers through like what Flint is, how it works, and different features in it. So yeah, it's kind of neat that Flint knows about itself to that extent. And then I know in the library also there's like a bunch of examples of how different schools have created activities shaped around their lesson planning tools, or shaped around their AI policy to help plan lessons. So I think Wesleyan was one of the first examples that I saw, but yeah, ASB has made one, Mountain Island Charter School has made one, but I think all of these might have been like riffs of one another, where the school uploaded their AI policy and then asked Flint to help teachers to create lesson plans or activity ideas that align with the policy and how they want AI to be used in their schools. Yeah, I think, okay, so we have a couple questions in the chat. Lisa's asking, is there a different way to have collaborative chats or activities where a group of users can view all user inputs? If not, how do you suggest that students view all submissions to an activity? Oh, interesting. I think what you could do actually is make it so that students are all owners of that activity. So that means that they would be able to see all of the activity with the activity, all of the sessions with the activity. And I can show you really quick where you can set that. So let me find an example where more people have used it. Sorry, I've been testing out way too many things recently. Okay, this one. So when you're typically sharing the activity, you know, if you send it via a link, then the students will be added as members. But what you could do instead is put in the students' emails separated by commas or spaces. And then when you've added all of their emails, you can change all of their roles to owners. And then they'll be able to see all of the sessions that have been had with that activity. I think the only caveat there is also that like they can also access the activity settings and edit those settings. So just make sure that like you're clear with them on that, like either that's not supposed to happen or that maybe they can do that. I'm not really sure what the application that you want to use there is, but yeah, it's kind of like a all or nothing situation. Stephen's asking, is there a way for Flint K-12 to review video of a teacher during a lesson and provide feedback? I think I'm actually not sure about video. For a long time, we did support YouTube, but then YouTube themselves changed their terms of service. So we've been like trying to work out with them like how we can re-enable YouTube in Flint. But we can process audio clips. So even if you like don't have like the video, if you can like pull out the audio and like get teachers' feedback based on that, that could also work. I think right now if you like upload an MP4 file, it might like still be able to process the audio, but I don't know if it can see the video right now. Yeah. And then Jennifer is saying, these are some good examples for admin to teacher activities. Do you have any information for how admin can use Flint on their own roles/purposes? Yeah, so I think hopefully actually there's like a lot of people who might share out some of the examples that they have there. But I can share with you all some of like how I've been using it on my own for like some things that might be in parallel with like what you all need to do. But for example, like I've used it as like a writing partner, or even like an announcement partner. For example, like for these campfire sessions, there's like a bunch of different sorts of things that I need to write. So I've given it the guidelines of like, okay, so I need like this sort of description, this sort of title. I need you to create like this sort of voice and feel for this portion of it. So I think there's a lot of like coaching that you can do to make it almost like your own writing buddy or your own feedback buddy. I think a lot of the sorts of processes that you create for when you're creating the teacher tools kind of also apply to your own purposes and roles. But yeah, if there's anything like in specific that you want me to explore, can do. But I do think some of the people that I asked today to share out will also share some examples. Yeah. Okay, and then on those lines, to ensure that they have like enough time to share things, I did want to really quickly go through the activity creation process for those who haven't seen that yet. So from your homepage, the chats are at the top here. This is where you're having those one-off conversations with Flint. And then if you want to create an activity, you just need to scroll down to this portion. And I'm just gonna, from here, you can like pick any of the shortcuts, but these are more so geared towards the teacher side of things. So for you all, it might make more sense usually to create a custom activity. And from here, on the left-hand side is where you'll chat with Sparky, the AI teaching assistant, about what it is that you need. And Sparky will ask you more questions about like the context and what sorts of output you're wanting. So it kind of guides you in that prompting process. But of course, you can always like build the activity manually if you're familiar with Flint and want to do more of the prompting yourself. And then on the right-hand side here, you'll see a preview of the session. And to save some time, I won't walk through the entire process there, but I can show you what a conversation has looked like before. So I put in this prompt of help me create an activity that helps the teacher create their own activities that encourage critical thinking. Yeah, and this is actually an example that I showed at a different Campfire session, but kind of just giving you all the overview of how it works. I put in like a bunch of different websites of critical thinking frameworks, and then Flint was able to write all of the settings for me, which is great. So you really don't need to be like a, wow, there's a lot of settings. You don't need to be a like person who is super comfortable with prompt engineering in order to use Flint here. Yeah, and then from there, it was able to create the session preview for me. And then from here, I could like simulate the session. If I added a grading rubric, it would like give me the different levels of simulation. And then I can also try out the session manually to see if it's working as intended. And then of course I can make edits and then try it out again. And then once I'm happy with it, I just need to create the activity, or here it says update the activity because it's already one that's been created. Yeah, okay. Any questions about activity creation? Yeah. And yeah, I see that James is sharing that as an idea for others, I'm currently working with our Dean of Curriculum to build an activity for teachers to self-assess a lesson plan before their formal observation to help them prepare. Yeah, I really like that. That's a really cool use case. I love learning about these new use cases, especially because I feel like I don't get to talk to administrators as much as I do teachers, just based on sheer numbers of people that I interact with. But yeah, that's super cool. If you have more details to share about that, James, would love to hear it in a little bit. But yeah, so now we can move on to the share out and feedback section. Specifically, I asked a couple people to share out, so I want to give them the mic first, but again, if anyone else has things that they want to share that they've been trying out, please do. Yeah, so Jeffrey Smith from the Stony Brook School, who is the chief academic officer and academic dean there, I know has been trying out a lot of different things. So if you want to go ahead, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Smith. I am here at the Stony Brook School, which is a school, a boarding and day school on the North Shore of Long Island. I'm going to share my window, if that's okay, so that we can show everything here. But I have a couple of activities that I wanted to share for how we use Flint and similar tools from the academic side here at the Stony Brook School. Some of these we use like constantly, and then some of them are a little bit more experimental or aspirational maybe in nature, to be totally transparent. But I'll kind of do a lightning round of 4 or 5 different things that we do, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. One of the things that we've been doing consistently this year is tracking student grades and students of concern through Flint. So we use Blackbaud, which we find very limiting, shall we say, in its ability to track student grades effectively and get kind of a holistic view. But one of the things that we kind of realized was the great data security of Flint. So unless you pay for the extra features and other AI tools, as great as they might be, they sometimes kind of train the AI model on the data. But the most amazing thing about Flint, or one of the many amazing things I should say, is that that data is safe and secure in there. And so we will consistently upload gradebooks and have our teachers even kind of download their gradebook as a CSV and upload it. And this is just a couple classes that I uploaded as a sample, but it named some of the students and what they're doing. And then I created in this some tabs as well that creates an action plan for that student, creates automatic email to generate to the parents, and then also creates a progress report that the teachers can share. And with some of the cool features of the data, now we have it making some recommendations and flowcharts and that sort of thing. This has been really helpful, and we kind of trained it on our system as well. We're still fine tuning it. It's mostly just something I kind of upload occasionally and track, a couple times a week, but it's been really helpful to have this. So that's been one of the things that's been really helpful. Similar to some of the other things that I heard, we have kind of an open system that we just call our curriculum planning guide. And so this is designed kind of from the ground up based on our school's curriculum guide and our course catalog and our expectations for lesson plans and unit designs and backwards designs and UBD and all these sorts of fun things. And it's really popular with our teachers in the summer. We had like 200 cases this summer of teachers doing it as we asked them to submit, plans and course syllabi and stuff. So it'll help you write course syllabi for a class, especially if it's a new class. It'll design a unit lesson plan, an individual lesson plan, or to give feedback on it. And we kind of uploaded the course system and went through, and I actually am teaching 2 new classes this year that I'm highly unqualified for, to be honest, and just kind of plugged the open gaps. And so I relied on this tool a lot, particularly with some of my new classes that I'm teaching this year. It does take a little bit of time with some of the questions that it asks, but once you get those in, it does a really great job of kind of designing the whole class for us, often the Canvas feature and stuff too. And so we had several teachers really rely on this a lot, and we felt good about that because we kind of put these great guardrails on, knowing that it's missional and based on what we're doing institutionally. In the summers here at SBS, we have a lot of challenges placing kids in our math classes, in our world language classes. We get about 200 new students every year almost. We have an online school and a campus school, and there's all these transcripts flying around everywhere, and things mean different things at different places. And so placement has been a really hard thing for us. So what we have created is twofold. On the one hand, I'll talk about in a second, but some placement tests that students can take. And then on the other hand, some course selection guidance. So we created an AI chatbot through Flint that got several hundred uses over the summer and was very popular. Even some of these people off to the left, some of these are our college counselors who are making plans for how to recommend classes to their advisees and stuff like this. But it went through, we uploaded our course catalog, and it does everything from helping give advice to new students, to returning students, to creating a graduation plan of what you might want to do over your 4 years at SBS if you're a 9th grader, which is something that we do with students as well. And you can see students are asking the difference between all these different physics classes, and it outlines all of this based on both our course catalog and then some of the curricular stuff that I showed you in the last one. And here's a sample of our placement test for math. This is we're hoping to get to the point where this is kind of a standard part of our admission, but that's actually not the case for us. And so, we have had challenges with placing kids in the right math classes. So we do a twofold approach to this. We both test in the summer for when that's necessary for students. And then we also have our teachers do it within the first week or 2 of classes. They do a similar one, sometimes on Flint, especially in our world languages classes, and then sometimes just written in person. And what that does is help diagnose and then confirm the placement for the students. That's been really helpful. I would say this summer, and I'm not inflating my numbers here, I would say this saved our office at least 200 hours of work. This was all stuff that we were doing either by hand or like itemized grading through formative, and then having long conversations with families and getting their syllabi from their old school sometimes. It was a lot of manpower and a lot of hours previously, and Flint saved us a ton of time. So thank you, Flint. We're so grateful for that. And then another thing, and this is something that I've actually just recently kind of developed and haven't pressure tested yet, but we, as many schools do, we have an annual curricular review process. So we have a 3-year rotating one, and we take different departments each year and have our faculty walk through the specific courses that they teach and evaluate the instructional materials and the textbook and kind of, strategically think about the scope and sequence and all these sorts of things. And so we created a chatbot that hasn't been tested yet, as I mentioned, but trained it on our documents that we've made. And then we're going to have our teachers try to fill it out through here, so we can kind of try to identify some trends through here, and look at some overall sort of trend lines, like I mentioned, and then kind of make strategic data sets based on that. Obviously, this isn't the only thing we're going to do for this. Of course, we have multiple other layers to it, but we thought that using this would be really helpful rather than our teachers filling out like a Google form or something like that. It would be a little bit more dynamic and helpful in here. So these are just some of the things that we've been doing here at SBS. I'd be happy to talk about them or pass it along to the next amazing person who will share some things. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. I think, yeah, Lisa had a question about whether or not any of these are in the public library.
Oh, yes. I'd be happy to publish all of those that aren't. I think our math placement test and our kind of curriculum planner are both in there. That's obviously specific to our school and stuff, but I'll double check, and I can send Lulu the links afterwards, maybe, if that works. So
Yes, yeah, and then I can put them in the slides so that you all have it. The slides will automatically get sent out after this meeting, but when I send out the recording, I can like put in the reminder of like, hey, check out the awesome new public library editions from our Shareouts. Yeah. I guess one thing that I was curious about is, how do you manage like all of the data that comes in afterwards? I know like Flint has like some overviews of like analytics and stuff, but it's also something that like our team specifically is looking at right now, like what data we can include into the platform that will make you all's lives easier. Yeah, so I guess like, how do you review all of the sessions afterwards and like figure out what's working well and what isn't?
yeah, that's probably been the hardest part of the process, to be honest. What I really like though is the record keeping, because I can see what the kids, like for the math placement test, we have them, I think the one that I showed, they do stuff by hand, and then they were taking a photo and uploading it, or they can use the the little Canvas interface in there. But what's really nice for us is like, if our Algebra 2 teacher wants to see how a kid in the placement test factored something, I can pull that up really quickly. It does take a little bit of time, to be honest, because I couldn't see like, this kid has recommended Algebra 1 and this kid's recommended geometry super quick, so I had to go through and kind of scroll to the bottom. But that's a 5-second commitment, whereas it used to be like a 15-minute commitment. So I'm happy to take that trade for now.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, if there's anything like specific, we can also talk offline about this, because it might be like a bit too in the weeds for this session. But if there's anything specific related to data that might be helpful for our team to look at, please let me know. It is something that's like top of mind for us right now. Yeah, cool. Any other questions for Jeff or the group? I wish we had more time to dig into like all of the awesome things that you just showed us. Okay, yeah. If not, I also asked Charlie Gramages, sorry if I'm butchering your last name, who is the head of middle school.
You killed it. Nice job.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah, Charlie's the head of middle school at the Kincaid School. Yeah, and I know Kincaid has also been going ham with Flint, so excited to hear what you all have to share too.
Well, I can tell you right now that if you want to listen to somebody that's smart, that's Jeff. He definitely has some pretty amazing stuff. So thank you, Jeff, for offering all that great stuff, and it makes me happy that we don't have a lot of time, because I don't think I can contribute quite as much. But I will tell you that I look at it for my personal practice in the middle school, more about connecting what my hopes and visions are for the middle school to the activities that we are engaging in with the kids. For instance, we have an annual student climate survey, and so what I've done is I've been able to take that survey, the raw data, and process and reprocess it and look at it from everything from anything you can imagine. How are our kids doing who came in 6th grade? How are our kids doing that live outside of our local zip codes? How are our kids doing that identify in different types of areas of life? And so how do we target those kids the most? We look at our trends, like why are our 7th and 8th graders, although you might, if you're a middle school person, you might know, why are 7th and 8th graders seeing their school experience a little bit more jaded than their 5th and 6th grade classmates. As middle school kids, sometimes they get more jaded as they get a little older in 7th and 8th grade. But what are we doing that's maybe missing a mark in that way? So what I do with the Flint tool is I will take the raw data and dump it in there, and then the value here is adding conversation, right? So asking it to analyze and look at things. I do have a third-party company that helps me with some of the crunching of the data, and so then I can take their executive summary or their guiding themes and feedback, put it in there and start doing a comparative analysis of an external company's perspective to the stuff that I'm getting out of Flint's tool. On that same note, when I said connecting to our middle school mission and vision, there's a lot of things where we have started to move towards understanding how our pedagogy might be impacting kids' feelings of success in the classroom, which connects to that student climate survey. So this past summer, we read NeuroTeach, which is a wonderful text if you haven't read it before, talking about how mind and brain education all mix together. So the neuroscience meeting with pedagogy, meeting with just the idea of learning how the brain operates. Flint has helped me build workshops for faculty. So it knows the book much better than I do already, just out of the gates. And then I can create various workshop sessions that mix in with our school mission and that mix in with our student climate survey in terms of creating connected feedback. As Jeffrey said earlier, it saves tons of hours of time because those are things that I might have to sift through to figure out on my own, while the AI helps me in a heartbeat figuring out those connections. So validating those connections, making sure that they make sense to me, and then moving into building various workshops. It's built the handouts for me for those workshops. It's built the post survey that I send out to faculty for those workshops. It's helped me tweak the next workshops because of the feedback I got from the first ones. One of our workshops is going to be, we've retooled, the AI and I have retooled the workshops to our third one actually is going to bring in the authors of the textbook to speak to our middle school faculty about how their book might connect to what we're doing in a little bit more direct way. And so I can now have my opening conversation with those authors and say, here's what we've done so far, here's the tweaks that I want to make, in a way that I've never even dreamed of doing before. And the last thing I'll add to that is, as a part of the feedback from the faculty in terms of being tired of talking about the textbook, they want to talk about it because they don't just want to read it, check the box, and say they're done with their summer reading. They want to do something with it, but they don't want to do too much. So there's a balance, right? And so the third one is going to be in departments. So I'm going to go into departmental meetings. We have what we call drop days, where let's say the math department doesn't teach on a Monday. And so then they will, instead of teaching, those kids have a study hall in their math class, and those teachers have a full day of PD. And so that happens twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring. And so I'm able to connect all the pieces that we've put together into a more math specific conversation for that math department. So now I'm able to connect all these pieces together. I guess the biggest piece of advice that I've come to find learning through this process of building those workshops and of using our climate survey as a tool for developing our program is that I used to think that the AI knew what questions I needed to ask. And so it was just building for me, and I could ask some follow-up questions here and there. But the number one question that I've come to ask every single time I do any sort of interactions with the AI is, what questions have I not asked yet? And it'll walk through with me, well, have you thought about it from this angle? Have you thought about it from this angle? And that opens up a whole new line of questioning in my conversation with the AI on that topic. That is a daily practice that I'm am just now developing. Yeah, so those two things are my biggest pieces. What I've done most recently is I've developed an AI coach. So I've got a leadership coach that's built in Flint. That is actually it's built in ChatGPT and Flint, and I'm trying to see how I can move it more into Flint because I feel like it's a little bit more protected in that space. But I can throw in everything from my Strength Finders work to my ed philosophy to all the stuff that I want to do, and then I can put in what I've done before is put in an email and say, okay, I've got this email that I have to respond to. I want to make sure I'm putting in the right wording or the right practices that creates balance in my approach to responding to a teacher or a parent that maybe could be challenging for me to wordsmith it on my own, but Flint will help me wordsmith that while integrating my mantras and mindsets that I've built for the middle school. So it's just nice to have that thought partner in the process.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Charlie. To clarify for everyone, I guess, do you mostly use like the chats in Flint, or are some of these like going into activities, or?
Right, that's a great question. So I use the chat to build. Right now, I've built a chat for getting to know me process. So I'm putting in stuff, and when it comes into responding to emails, I'll build the assistant based on that kind of stuff. When it comes to the NeuroTeach workshop, that was all assistant based because I wanted to turn it into a NeuroTeach assistant for faculty. So as I built the workshop and did it all in that one kind of, I guess, connected environment, now I can share that assistant with my faculty to walk through some of the questions they may have from the text or from our conversations, and it's all built in together so they can create their own assistant from the one that I've built in connection to the textbook. So for those two, that's what I've done. For the climate survey, I've done that mainly in the chat as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm sure like the group would love to see any of the activities that you've made also.
I'm happy to share. We have a comment writing one too that we just built. There's one for the upper school and for the middle school, and that's pretty fun to see. We're actually going to do that one in practice. For my last 30 seconds, we have a division meeting on Wednesday morning where we're going to correct some not so great comments just as a part of our practice before we write comments for the end of the trimester for us. But the third one I'm going to do as a laboratory, almost like a modeling the experience for them, where I'm going to put up on the screen the Flint assistant and then have the conversation with it about the third poor comment, and use all of the exemplar information, all of our standards and such that we have for our comments that we've built into an assistant, and hopefully get the output so they can see, oh, this is how we practice using the assistant as a co-creator and as an editor versus as a the sole creator of our comments. So balancing out that skill set for our faculty.
Yeah, I like that. I like how actually that I feel like that loops back to like the icebreaking news that we were talking about, where it's like important to keep the teacher in the loop for everything. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Yeah, Kriti is asking about the comment activity / assistant. So if Kincaid is willing to share that in the public library, I could share that out with the group afterwards. Oh yeah, it looks like Charlie has said that. They're happy to share theirs. So yeah, awesome. I can share that out with the group along with the recording. I know we're a little bit close on time, so I'll go ahead and do the wrap up. But if anyone is available to stay after, has more ideas to share, we can I'd love to hear them at least, and we can chat about it. And I'll include it in the recording for anyone else who isn't able to stay. But yeah, for some of these final thoughts. Oh, I think I forgot to update this image, but next week, you can ignore the first two rows. Next week, we have a session for social studies. Also, just to know, any of the ones that say planning, the actual date hasn't been set yet, but it's going to be the week of that day. But yeah, next week we have a campfire for social studies. It is actually already scheduled. I think it's next Wednesday. Sorry, next Thursday, 23rd. But yeah, so this is kind of like the plan for the rest of the semester. If there's anything in specific that you all want to see, please reach out to me. If there's any of these that you want to share ideas at, kind of like how I asked Jeff and Charlie today, please also reach out to me. Always looking for people to do that. Yeah, so that's kind of the schedule. And I'll also try and make a schedule for the next semester. So again, yeah, any topics that you want to see, please let me know. All recordings will be posted on our website, but again, everyone here and anyone who registered will get the link to it directly in their email. And here are the final QR codes that I share at the end of every session. Campfire calendar is here, but if you're already here, you're probably already subscribed to it. We do have the Instagram and the Flint community, those are two places where you can learn more about Flint and its uses, I would say. For the Instagram, it's like the one social media from our team that we more so put out like teaching tools and tips to. I would say like the rest of our social media is more geared towards like, you know, why you should buy Flint kind of thing. But the Instagram is more about like how to use Flint. And then the community is where we're trying to like gather a lot of people who use Flint and just create a space for you all to ask questions to each other, ask for ideas, kind of like the spirit of these campfire sessions, but async. Yeah, and our team is also pretty active in there. So if there's any questions that we can answer, we'll also hop in and add our 2 cents. Yeah. Okay, and then Kruti is asking, is there a handout or summary of what capabilities the essays have, just so we know what the baseline is and how else we can use Flint for? I don't think we have like a specific handout or anything, but on our website, we do have like a list of the Flint features. I do think there's like one thing that's a little bit outdated here, but most of these are up to date. We're doing a rehaul of our website soon, but this kind of like shows all of the different features within Flint. And then for other use cases, I would say our website mostly focuses on like teaching use cases, not so much the administrator use cases. But I do think it would be helpful to make a list of things. So yeah, if everyone else finds this helpful, maybe we can create something together. I do think like a while back, I tried to make a Padlet for the whole community so that it could be like something that other people contribute to as well. But I think it got a little lost in just like everyone got busy. So yeah, maybe that's something that we can look at again. But yeah, I think there's like a couple of resources on our website that might be somewhat helpful.
Lulu, can I ask a really quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, Tiffany.
So both Jeffrey and Charlie like mentioned this too. Y'all just discussed a lot about like coaching the AI or helping the AI get to know you. Some resources on how to do that would be great. So I feel like that's how we get from the administrative side. I feel like that's like the first thing. If we can get the assistant to, you know, or learn our voice more, our like our missions and our values. So any resources and tools how to do that would be so great.
Yeah. I think I do think I could put together like a checklist or something for that. But I would say like just for right now, the typical like things that I tell people to look for are firstly to give Flint a persona. So kind of say like, okay, I want you to be my writing coach, or I want you to be my like feedback partner, or I want you to be my like data analyst. So that kind of like, in a way, it'll like really help Flint hone in on like what its role is supposed to be, but also like what its goal is supposed to be, so that the outputs are a bit more aligned with what you want. And then I think when it comes to voice, uploading examples is always best. So if you have like, if you're like prompting it like, hey, I like write in a like professional but friendly tone or something, it's usually best to also include an example of like, here's like an example of an email that I wrote or something like that. If you can include more than one example, I would suggest it, because sometimes it gets like too attached to one example, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and then I think like the rest of it is just like trying it out and then editing it. I do think it's like a pretty iterative process. I think like something like Charlie had said was, oh no, I just lost it. It has left my mind. But yeah, I do think like the iterative process is kind of important. Yeah, I think like as you use it, the more you use it, the better it'll get. What I've done with a lot of the activities that I've built for like my own workflows and purposes is I'll use it and like I'll like have a couple sessions with it, and then like maybe 2 or 3 sessions in, I'll realize like, oh shoot, I needed to like do this differently, or I needed to like behave this way. And like the good thing is if you go into the settings and then add that prompting into the setting, then future sessions will have that applied. So that's like one of the perks of using activities and not just the chats, I guess, is that you can like it might not be like the first time you're building it, but like weeks later you realize that you need a change. You can make that change in the settings and then have the tool that you've made like be up to date. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and Jeff said, I like using AI to write the guidelines too. Yeah, true. And he says that he uses a prompt, make an AI prompt that will help me, ... So yeah, I do think AI is really good at prompting other AI. So sometimes, yeah, even if you just like, if you're struggling with an activity, you could like ask it to export the settings to a document, and then you can like put it into a Flint chat, or even like put it into ChatGPT or a different AI tool, see what it gives you, and say like, hey, I'm struggling with like getting this to behave this way. And that can also help a lot. Agreed. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions or things that people want to share with the group? All right. I guess if not, feel free to reach out to me at any point if you all are like trying out new ideas but want like someone who knows about Flint to help you out with that, or you just want like a brainstorming partner. Always happy to be there for you all. I'll throw my email in the chat, but it's just lulu@flintk12.com. Yeah, and super excited to see what you all make. If there's anything that you create that you want to share with our team, please let me know. It really like helps us to figure out like how to prioritize things that we build, and also yeah, just like gain momentum for what it is that we are building towards when we see awesome examples from y'all. So yeah, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for sharing your ideas and your questions. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week.